So I've got it pulled up, and I'll kind of explain it a little bit why I'm not going to actually be playing it. But there was a song that I think hopefully most of us have heard by a band called Tommy Two Tone, and the title is 8675309/Jenny. I didn't know that was the actual title of the song. I just pulled it up on YouTube. But, every once in a while, I still think of that song like 8675309. Not going to sing it because I'll get into that later. But this is episode 309 of the BB&J Podcast. I know I mentioned it in episode 308. For those of you on Facebook or Instagram, this might be a little confusing, given that we don't have the episode number. But if you're if you're listening to this podcast or if you're on YouTube, it'll make a lot more sense. Trust me. But something that I enjoy, and I think if you asked someone what that number was, to name a song phone number, they'd still be able to name that. How long ago did this come out? How old is this song? And people still know it. Music is powerful with your content. It does take some work, does take some practice, and it takes some cautiousness to use. But if you can incorporate some music, you can make a huge difference in how people engage with it. Music is memorable. Music establishes a mood. It sets a tone. You can take any community college intro to cinema class to learn how important music is in setting the difference between a comedy and a tragedy. Setting the difference between a content where you're just some guy talking and this is something that you're passionate about. But you may have noticed we don't have music playing in this podcast. And why is that? Let's get into it, right? Not sure if I introduced myself already. I'm not going to go back, but I am John Lint. You're listening to the BB&J Podcast, and I know this has been kind of a long intro, but let's get into it because I think this is super exciting. So, talking about how can music improve your content? How does music improve a movie? How does music improve an ad? How often do you see ads with music in them? It's most of them, right? I pull up my phone. I go on TikTok. What am I hearing a ton of? Music. They like to hit you with an ad right at the beginning. What does that ad have? 99.99% of the time, music. If you're a business, if you're a brand, music has power for the same reason that music has power for companies and other brands. So used mindfully, used carefully with thought into the applications and does this have risks? You can get a ton out of music. Like I said, if you want to set the tone of your content, whether it be an ad, whether it be a video, whether it be whatever, music can do that. Music can enhance and heighten the emotion. That's not just true for movies. That's true for your content. That's true for your ads. Your videos will also be improved by music, just like a movie will be with a great soundtrack. A lot of people wish they had soundtracks to their life. So incorporating music, people can't have soundtracks to their life, but you can have a soundtrack to your brand. And that's, I think, one of the great things about social media is it does, like, you don't have to have a band right next to you. You can utilize stuff that you have license to use, whether it be because you made it, because you contracted, because you bought the rights to use it for advertising. But, like, that makes a difference. People will engage with that. But, and it's a pretty big but, I'm going to throw in a little, qualifier. Because this next part is really important. You're going to want to listen, because if you're going all over the place, throwing in music, you can get in some trouble. And I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't want you to come away from this podcast saying, oh my gosh, John said that I can, put music, whatever music I want, in anything. So I'm going to run a Facebook ad with the Beatles soundtrack. Or, like, no. This is, like I said, this is something that takes some practice. This is something that takes some mindfulness, some research, and some education. The biggest thing, and this is kind of like the bar of, if you're going to get in trouble, you're going to get in trouble here first, is YouTube. YouTube is very specific on what kind of music you use, on the license to use that music, to the point where there are bots for these these companies and organizations that own this music that will go across YouTube 24/7 looking for any video that has their song. And if it does, guess what? Copyright strike. And I mean, you may have heard the phrase like demonetized. In YouTube, if you use copyrighted material, especially because this is the easiest way to figure out through like bots, right? You don't even need video. Especially copyrighted music, if you don't have a license to it, and they copyright strike your video, that video gets demonetized. Meaning that there will still be ads on it. They can still put ads on it, but you will not see a cent, because that money is going to go to the people who own the rights to the song. So, does it necessarily directly negatively affect your channel in terms of how likely YouTube is to show it to people? YouTube says no. And I mean, like, I'm not a programmer. I don't necessarily know about the back end of YouTube, but I'm inclined to agree. I'm inclined to believe them. But it means that if your channel's monetized, if you're looking to make money off of it, that won't fly. Now, I know that most of you aren't, S&P 500 CEOs. You may be thinking, like, John, my brand, my company, we're not at the size where we're getting monetized on YouTube. So what's the problem? Well, let's talk about other platforms. Because music matters on those other platforms as well. Now, I do want to close the book on YouTube. Even if you technically have the license to use the song, and I've seen this in person with some of our clients, even if you technically have the license, you can still get copyright claimed, and the algorithm is going to, I guess, kind of like favor the accuser, or the person making the claim. They're going to, by default, demonetize your video. And it's very hard to get it back up, making you money. So I have, like, I mean, I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from, like, this is stuff I've had to deal with in person and had to learn about because I didn't know what was going on. the really don't want to have any music. The only way you can really safely use music on YouTube is having the original creator, the person who has the license, who like owns the music, white label you. I was just listening to podcasts and they were talking about this of like, oh yeah, we know that we saw that you were like putting out, you like reposting our content, so we're just gonna white label you so that your stuff doesn't get taken down because we appreciate it. And like, I mean that was by all accounts a very rare thing. And like you'll see on YouTube, either they will like use the same song which they personally own. Like you have like a vlogger, for example, they'll usually use the same song, the same little soundtrack, because they don't have to worry about getting copyright claimed for that. The stuff that they make, they don't have to worry about. But be careful. If you're like not rock solid on, I can use this song, I got permission from the creator to use this song, and I know that they're not going to try to throw out a copyright claim against me, there is a good chance that your video is going to get me demonetized. And long-term channel growth, short-term channel growth, all that stuff, we don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. That's why I'm making this video. Amongst the other applications of music. I know I kind of led with this is why it's good, but I really want to temper this, because I don't want anyone coming to me and saying, well, John said that I can use music and it'd be good for the content, so why am I getting in trouble? You need to be very careful. Make sure that no one is going to take issue with you using that music. So moving out from that kind of like the big chunk, which is YouTube, let's talk about other social media platforms. So YouTube is definitely very specific on the music that you use in your videos, but you will see this on other platforms, especially if you're running ads, because a small creator using some music with kind of an iffy license, that's one thing. But someone using a song to make money, it gets very tricky. Because if you're using that music in your ad, and like it's an ad, it's designed to make money, you can't really use like education or parody as a fair use. So make sure that, I honestly, like the best way is just to get someone to make the little jingle. That's what a lot of advertisers do. Because if you're using some other song, who knows what it might trip up, and especially if you use their song without permission, then all that money you spent on the ad just went down the drain. You don't want to waste money on an ad, because it can be the best produced, best soundtrack, all that stuff, but if Facebook, Instagram, Google, wherever you're running this ad looks at this and is like, you're using copyrighted music, all that time, money, and resources, and that space that you were going to use for ads is wasted. So when you're using music on other platforms, and like with a normal video, unless they're like, here's these sounds that you can use, be very careful. Make sure that like you are the one who owns either the rights to use the song, or you're the one who owns the song. If you own the rights to the song, make sure that you know precisely what applications you're allowed to have. Because maybe you own the rights for general content, but do you own the rights for ads? You know, do you own the rights for X, Y, and Z? Are you allowed to use it in certain contexts? Knowing these things is important. And I think what I'll kind of close it out with is TikTok, because we've all seen TikToks. I kind of talked about it at the beginning. You know, you pull up my phone, you go to TikTok, you hear a bunch of music. So how does that work? And there may be other platforms where you're like, well, they give me music. Am I going to get in trouble for using that music? Here's the thing. These platforms have bought the right to use that music on their platform. And because you're on that platform, you are allowed to use that music. So, you know, I can pull up I can pull up my phone. I can record a video of myself on TikTok. I can add music. I don't have to worry about it getting copyright strike. As long as I'm using music that comes from the platform that is like, you know, if I pull up like Megan Thee Stallion, and I'm like, okay, let me look at a recent song on TikTok, and then I use that in my video. That's fine. You know why? Because TikTok has gone to Megan Thee Stallion and said, you know, we will give you X amount of money, or they set up the contract, but people, our platform can use this song. Our platform, so anyone using our platform can also use this song, potentially make money using that song. But do not take that as the standard. That is a very specific situation where the platform already took care of this stuff for you. So, you know, I guess kind of closing message, music in your content is great. It can do a lot of good. But you need to be careful on how you use it so that it doesn't end up hurting you. That's about all I have for you today. I'd like to thank you so much for listening or watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I've been your host, John Lint, and I look forward to seeing you on episode 310.